What's up, YouTubers? Just another day in paradise. Here, let me get a shot of that. It's not a fountain. It could be. It's got that blue. I don't know if it's a flower or that bougainvillea. There's a purple one right up there. Anyhow, I got a viewer question. Why I chose where I live, basically in Central America. There's quite a few reasons I chose that, and I'll go over them, and if I forget, just leave a comment, or if you think I'm forgetting something. But just to let the viewers know, in Central America, I'm in Guatemala. Here's why I chose here. 2 or 3 years ago, I think 2 years ago, they changed all the rules in getting citizenship, getting permanent residency, getting temporary. Well, I think it's a permanent residency they changed, not the temporary, but they changed all that a couple years ago. So everything I'm saying is based prior to that, when it was really, really easy to get residency here. And then if you want, at the end of 5 years, you can, actually before 5 years expires, you can start the process to get naturalization, which leads to a passport. So here's many reasons. There's many reasons why, but number one is, at that time, you didn't have to have an income or proven income. And for me, I want the potential for privacy where you don't have to list out assets, you don't have to list out your income, you don't have to have a minimum or max, you don't have to have a minimum income to meet. That's number one. That's one of the big reasons for me. Why I mention is it's private, because many residency programs, many people don't realize you have to list out, well, you're supposed to list out your assets. And many Americans or North Americans, as compared to Europeans, let's just say, are more Boy Scouts. They will actually list out their income and their assets. All that information is in a public computer that's shareable with the United States. It's shareable with the IRS, the Treasury Department. Many people think that's not true, but I would say whether you believe that or not, you should be realistic and realize the U.S. government can put pressure on any of these governments to release that information. But nowadays, at least if you're a U.S. citizen, all that stuff is freely available. Maybe not for Europeans, but because of FACTA and things like that, all that information is freely available. And most of these governments will capitulate under U.S. government pressure because they want their handouts for Uncle Sam. So everything you put on the application, you better make sure that's true and accurate, and you better make sure whatever you say your income is here, you better be reporting that in the States, or you could have some problems. And here's another problem that most Americans and Europeans don't think about when they're filling out the applications and giving away all their personal private information. What they don't realize is that information is shared with first world governments, it's shared with what I would say is cartel type people, and it's shared with what I would call corrupt corporate people and corrupt government people. All that information can be shared and used against you, like for example to kidnap you, or for example, it's not unheard of for U.S. government employees at the embassy to blackmail people. So that's one of the reasons when I say privacy, you don't have to have any proof. In the past, you didn't have to have any provable income that you had to list on application. You just had your lawyer fill out the paperwork. At that time, a police background check. That's another thing. I didn't have to get an FBI background check. Again, I don't have any legal problems, but with a local police check in the United States, you can pick whatever state. So say you have a legal problem in Washington State, you just get one in, like, say, Minnesota or whatever. And those governments up there, or those state governments, don't ask you to prove you actually live there. And the Guatemalan government didn't ever ask you to prove you lived up there, so that you would get a clean bill of health. That's another thing. Now, for me, it didn't matter, but for other people who may have a legal problem, that's what they would have done. Or what they would have done and maybe can do. I'm not sure if they can do this anymore, but if you need an FBI background check and there's no way around it, I don't know how you could run it, but in the past you could just say you lived in Europe and get a check there. But sometimes in Europe, my understanding was you had to prove you lived there before you'd get that background check. I might be wrong, so I don't know if that's available, but that's just the privacy aspect. When I say privacy, you don't have to list your assets, you don't have to list your income, and many countries want a list of your assets and income. I want to say Chile is like that, but I might be wrong. But There are governments like Chile that ask for a lot of detailed information. And my interest in Chile was like 5 or 10 years ago, and things have changed all over, not just Chile, but all over Latin America. So that's one reason, is you didn't have to list an income, and as a more of a lower class person, that made it easy for me to immigrate here. And plus, whatever wealth I had, I didn't have to list or prove or anything like that. I just had to fill out the application. The lawyer paid my government fees, and I paid my lawyer to fill out the application and stuff like that. And then I got permanent residency, and it's the same thing. And then after that, everything changed. So I was very happy I got permanent residency before the changes happened. Now, the other thing is, here's another thing why I chose here, specifically Central America, is it's close to the United States. If you have loved ones or business interests in the U.S., you might want to be close to it to fly back or to travel back overland. And where that can come in important, which I never thought of, was coronavirus. When coronavirus happened, I could quite easily get back and forth without getting on a plane. And that was very convenient and affordable. Not that I couldn't have afforded to spend $2,000 or $3,000 to go back. I say $2,000 or $3,000 because people I know got those special flights and paid $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 to fly back to the States. The ones who did, anyways. Now, why is being close to the United States important for me specifically? Well, partly it's loved ones and business interests, but another reason is what some of the passport providers and second passport providers and offshore people don't mention to you. If you get a second passport and then the U.S. government takes it away, it's kind of useless to have it now. But at least, like say you had a residency in Mexico or Guatemala, you can quite literally walk across the U.S.-Mexican border, no passport, no nothing, and you can just keep on going, and no one's going to ask you for any ID most of the time. And then you can walk right into Guatemala without a passport. That was important to me, that I would be able, if I ever had a legal problem, to get to where my residency is. And then after you get there, you talk with your lawyer to get your ID back. Or you can just store your passport and your local ID locally. Then when you leave, you just come back and you get it if you're worried about that. Many people get a passport like in Europe or other countries, and something happens legally, their U.S. passport's taken away so they can't leave the country. They don't have access to their second passport in Europe because it's stored in Europe. So then they can't get there, they're in a legal bind, and the usefulness of that second passport residency is no good because they can't get there. That's another reason I picked Central America. Since I'm from North America, I can quite literally walk across the U.S.-Mexican border, show no ID, no passport, nothing, right up to this day, and walk right into Guatemala right up to this day. The passport border controls are very weak in Latin America, at least in Central America and Mexico. Now, there's one caveat. If you walk into TJ, my understanding is from people who told me this, they ask to see your passport when you come into TJ or some kind of ID. But all the other border crossings I've ever used, I've never been asked for it. And I haven't gone into TJ in so many years, I really don't know. I'm just going by what my friend said, so that's why I say that. Now, let me think now. There's a few other reasons. Another reason is it's just a low cost of living. I like to live at a lower cost of living situation. And as a generalization, like say Guatemala is quite a bit cheaper than say Costa Rica or Panama or Chile. It's just, I personally think that the amenities of Guatemala are the same or better than Costa Rica or Panama, but you pay a fraction of the cost. And not only is Guatemala, in my opinion, better in that regard, the mountains are higher, and the emperor is far away, so to speak, but also too, you're higher up in the altiplano, so you get a cooler weather. You still have the beaches. You still have colonial towns here. So you have all those opportunities too, but with a lower cost of living. Then say Colombia even is getting more expensive because so many gringos are going there. Ecuador is more expensive because so many gringos are going there. So for me, I wanted a low cost of living, a variety of a different climate, the altiplano with the beaches, with the big cities. There's a few big cities here, Sheila, the capital, etc. And there's other cities too that are pretty nice but much smaller. So I wanted a low cost of living. I wanted easy access from the United States, and I wanted easy access if I ever had to come in if I had a legal problem. Now again, I want to stress I don't have a legal problem, but you never know when these things will pop up. When you run a business, when you might get sued, when you might not be able to leave the country for whatever reasons. So you want to have things set up so you just walk across the border, get your local transportation, and then keep on going, and then come into your country of residency. And if you lost all your ID, you either get it back through the government agency down here, or you go talk to your lawyer. He'll do the paperwork to get your IDs back, and you're good to go. So that's kind of the main reason, the privacy. Now, some of my viewers may realize I don't live the most private life. That's another reason I like it here, because while I'm on social media now, and I don't have any legal problems, but if I ever had a problem, Guatemala is the kind of place where you don't need ID to rent a place. You don't really need ID to do much of anything, except for have a bank account in your name and cross the border. But even crossing a border here, it depends what border it is, you can cross okay. And by the way, I'm not suggesting you cross borders without documents. I'm just saying, if for whatever reasons you had a business in El Salvador, or let's say Honduras, that's an easier example. You just walk across the border, go to your business, take care of business, come back, no harm, no foul. But I want potential privacy in the future, although I might not want it now, and maybe I'm not laying the best groundwork to get it now. I recognize that, but if I ever have to go off the radar, Guatemala is an easy place where you can live really cheap. You can pay cash for everything. It's not hard. It's very easy to get utilities, internet service. I'm thinking like cable. I don't do cable, but all that stuff can be easily gotten in a nominee's name. It's not hard at all. It's very, very easy. And you have a lot of options that are low-end cheap options and high-end $100, $150 a month kind of options. So there's just all that variety of what you want. That's why I mentioned that. So those are the basic reasons I chose. I like the weather here. I like the people here. I think this is equivalent or better than a lot of the surrounding countries. I think there's a lot of misleading information about crime and violence here that's misleading. Like, for example, I think Costa Rica is coming from a low level of crime that's creeping up. Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador is coming from a high level but going down. Now with coronavirus, that's changing a little bit, but some people will bring that up. I believe you can live in really safe areas and you'll hardly ever see any crime. And you have to, the caveat I would say is I'm not a younger person, so I don't hang out in bars. If you hang out in bars and leave bars at 1 or 3 a.m. in the morning, then it could be dangerous. But I don't do that, so that's not my lifestyle choice. But for me, it's safe. The cost of living is low. I can live on $500 to $1,000 easy. If I'm spending $1,000 or $1,200 or $1,500, I can travel to the local countries quite comfortably, stay in very nice hotels, go to the beach, go to the mountains. And also the other thing I keep forgetting is I'm close to Mexico and Honduras, some of my favorite places to go. So that's another reason. It's just my little circle I like to do when I'm traveling around. I just, everyone has where they like to go. If you have a PT type lifestyle, you have the countries you like to visit and do business in, or talk, visit your friends, enjoy the beach in different areas, stuff like that. Go to the mountain towns in different areas. So it's very close to the places I like, which are Mexico, Honduras, and the international airport here, Guatemala, is very nice. I can fly to Mexico City easy and cheap. I can fly to Mexico City or fly to Guatemala or fly to El Salvador or fly out of Panama City really easy and cheap almost anywhere from Europe to Asia or South America. So that's why I picked it, all those reasons. But cost of living, under the old rules, you didn't have to prove any income. You didn't have to list your assets, which is shared with various other governments and shared with other people that you might not be aware of unless you read a lot. Stuff like that. That's why I chose here. Now with all the changes, I have to think about it. I would still be here with the changes, but I'd have to see how I could fit in as far as provable income and stuff like that. There may or may not be loopholes. I'm not going to comment on that. But if I found a solution, I would probably still be here. but I'm already in, so I have my residencies, no problems. With that said, if I didn't have this right here as an option, I would probably choose Paraguay. Paraguay would not be my number one choice. It's just you fly in, you have your documents, your FBI background check, your other documents, I think a birth certificate, certified, all that stuff. You're flying with $5,000 plus your lawyer's fees. You're good to go. You can stay there. You can stay there and renew your residency. Even if you don't ever apply for a passport, you can keep renew it until you kick the bucket or whatever. That's why I Paraguay would be my plan B. But there are other opportunities that might be better. It's just I don't want to talk about them because I'd have to think about it where I actually want to live. But probably because of where Paraguay is and it's hard to get to, and the border countries, that's why I would live there. And it's hot, but that's a downside too. It's hot. It doesn't have much of a. My understanding, it doesn't have much of any altiplano at all. But it's close to these other countries I would like in South America. The cost of living is relatively cheap, and as of now, you just need to have the $5,000 deposit, all your paperwork, and once you're approved, you can take the money out of the bank, and you can just live there the rest of your life. You have to keep renewing your residency, but once you're in, you're in. Then after, I don't know, 3 to 5 years, I think you can apply for citizenship. You might not get it, but you can apply. So, anyways, I can't think of any. Well, Colombia might be an option. I'd have to go there, see if I actually liked it. Peru is an option. There's a lot of options down there. I haven't traveled enough around there to see where I'd really like to go. But as of right now, today, without thinking about it, if I couldn't be here, if I didn't want to be here, I would probably be in Paraguay. But with the idea to have that residency in my back pocket, so to speak, I would travel around the region, see if there's anywhere else I like better. And when you think about it, you're just going to pay the lawyer's fees. You put the $5,000 in the bank, and then once you get accepted, you can take it out, do whatever you want with it. It's a cheap way to have a backup residency. But the problem with Paraguay is it's so far in South America. If you're still doing business, if you're still flying around the world doing business in the States, and you ever had a legal problem, you might not be able to get there very easy. Not legally anyways. At least with Central America, you can basically cross the border to Mexico and then keep going into Guatemala, whether you have documents or not. Anyways, that's it for now. Like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment. Thanks.